We've done it again. We've made it through another week, and so that means that we get to drink some caffeine and talk about some books. It's time for a weekly recap. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That hits the spots. Hey everyone, I hope you've all had a good week and that you've been reading some good books. My reading week has been, I would say, pretty bloody good actually. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what I'm currently reading, what I just got finished reading, and what I'm looking forward to reading for the rest of the month. I'll tell you about some of the book battles that we had over on the Discord and what the results of those were. I'm also going to talk about a TV show that I started watching. I think it's very good. It's a pretty fantastic sci-fi show that just got released recently. A lot of people are talking about it. There's a lot of buzz. But yeah, I'll talk about all that stuff in a moment. Let's start by talking about what I'm currently reading. And the first book is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. So this is one that I've been looking forward to reading for a long time. It's set in this sort of fractured supercontinent called The Stillness. And this is a place where all of these catastrophic geological disasters are always happening. They're called seasons, and they just routinely wipe out entire civilizations. And the book opens with one of those disasters. The opening to this book I thought was just excellent. It really did a great job at setting the scene. Everything felt really tense. There are also these people called Origins, and you're going to have to forgive me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly because I'm just reading the book. I'm not listening to the audiobook or anything. Maybe I'll have to quickly listen to a little sample of the audiobook just to make sure I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, they're called Origins, and these are people that can manipulate the earth and maybe even stop these kind of earthquake-like events. There's a lot of confusion around these people and their abilities, and some people think that they're actually causing the disasters. Whether or not that's true, I don't know yet. I've just got to say, the opening hooked me straight away. I already care very deeply about the characters, and honestly, I'm a pretty simple reader. If you as a writer are able to make me care about the characters, then there's, I would say, a 90% chance that I'm going to love this book. I can still enjoy books that have pretty simple characters. For example, I really like the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy, and those characters are paper thin. But if you just want to guarantee that I am going to love this book, strong characters. That's the most important thing. You could give me the most mundane story about everyday people going about their lives, just doing administrative work. And if I cared about those people and I cared about their relationships, then that would be a page turner to me. I would be just as invested in that world as I would if we had these big world-ending events. And actually, this book gives us both. It gives interesting characters and also really high stakes. So I think I'm going to love this book. Only about 10% in so far, but we'll see how it goes. I should have it finished by next Sunday, I think. Something else I do when I read is that I'll very often pair a book with music that matches the tone. Do you ever do that? For me, it just makes the reading experience more immersive. If it's the same reason that they add soundtracks and stuff like that to movies, because it has an impact on your emotions, right? Music just has a way of elevating everything, and so I try and do that with books as well. And so the soundtrack that I'm using for this particular book is Horizon Zero Dawn. You know that video game? There's Horizon Zero Dawn and there's also Horizon Forbidden West. And I feel like that is such a perfect pairing. That game has this sort of sweeping, atmospheric soundtrack. that sounds a little bit kind of like tribal almost. Yeah, it's just perfect, and it's matching up so well. Even there's moments where I'll be reading an event that happens in the book, and the music will start to soar a little bit, and I'll just be, "Oh, I'm feeling it, I'm feeling it. I'm lost in this world." Put on my noise cancelling headphones, and I'm in it. I'm there. The next book I'm reading is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. So this is a warm, fuzzy, slightly quirky story about a lonely older woman who works the night shift at an aquarium and ends up forming an unexpected bond with a giant Pacific octopus. And through that connection, he kind of helps her to untangle some of the mysteries of her life. I'm reading this along with the PBJ Book Club. We're about 2/3 of the way through now, so I'm going to have this finished really soon. Maybe today I have it finished. And plot-wise, it's pretty light. I mentioned this last week as well when I was talking about this video, but there isn't really a whole lot to sink our teeth into as far as a discussion goes. So it might not necessarily be ideal for a book club pick. But it is pleasant to read, and it's just nice chatting about these characters and the little moments that are happening. But yeah, in terms of real substance, there's not much meat on the bone. At this point, I think most of us have sort of worked out where the story's heading. One of my complaints actually probably about the book, if it ends the way that I think it's going to end, is that it's pretty predictable. You can make it about 20% into this book and probably piece together the events that are about to happen and then get a general idea of the ending. I don't know. I haven't finished it yet, but I just have a feeling that it seems like I kind of know where this one's going to go, and most of us do, I think, in the book club. But the charm of the book isn't really the tension or the complexity or the high stakes. It's a breezy read with some gentle, likable characters. Actually, there is, there is. I should probably rephrase that because most of the characters are likable. There's one in particular which I'm sort of on the fence about, and it's one character, one of the main characters, who I think the author wants me to like, but I'm struggling a little bit. I'm not going to spoil anything or tell you what this character does, but this character is about 30 years old. Their life is a bit of a mess, but and that's fine. Lots of people's life is. I think my life was kind of messy when I was 30 years old. It's fine, but it's like they're not taking responsibility for it, and they're acting a little bit entitled, kind of like a teenager. Uh, Not too cool to act like a 30-year-old teenager. I'm hoping that there's this character arc, which I need it. The arc isn't arcing enough, more of an arc. That's what I need. But yeah, I hope that this character kind of steps up, takes some responsibility, because right now it's just a little bit frustrating for me to read about this character. They're surrounded by people who want to help them. Good fortune keeps landing on their lap. Every bit of luck that they earn, or sorry, every bit of luck that they receive is completely unearned. Kind of lazy, ungrateful about all of the people that are helping them out. It's tough for me to root for a character like that. And it's getting increasingly difficult for me anyway. I don't think everyone in the book club feels that way. In fact, I know that they don't. So yeah, I'm hoping that there's a little bit of a twist in the tale where they wake up and they realize, all right, time for me to grow up. I need to do something big now to make up for everything. Yeah, that can happen. And I like redemptive arcs, by the way. My favorite book of all time is The Ultimate Redemptive Arc. Take a little guess at what my favorite book is. What is the ultimate story of redemption? What do you think it is? You know what? I'll tell you at the end. I'll tell you my favorite book at the end to see if you guessed right. Have a little think about it. What is the ultimate redemption arc in literature? We'll see. We'll see if you got it right. So what book did I finish? Oh, I love getting a chance to show this thing off. You know I do. Do, 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 do. Yes, it's The Lord of the Rings. Specifically, I read The Two Towers, which is the second book in the trilogy. Oh my goodness. Little illustrations and everything. Like, to be honest, there's not very many. It's not like it's not a picture book. I would say, if I was to take a guess how many illustrations there are in this book, I would say there's about 20 across the whole trilogy. Yeah, like little sketches of maps and stuff like that. It's such a nice little touch. I've been smiling ever since I finished this book. Yesterday, I finished The Two Towers. So I mentioned, I know I just mentioned that I like listening to music while I read. And the good thing about reading The Lord of the Rings is that it's got a soundtrack built in, because of the movies, the trilogy of movies. So I can just throw on the Two Towers score while I read it, and it throws me back into the world. It throws me back into Middle-earth, and the music pairs so well with everything that's happening on the page. Since this is a sequel, I never like to assume that everyone has read the books or everyone has seen the movies. Even though it's one of the most famous fantasy stories ever made, I would say probably, as far as the movies go, tied with Harry Potter, But I know that not everyone has seen those movies. So I'm not going to spoil everything here. I'll just say this. I think The Two Towers will end up being my favorite book in the trilogy. We'll have to see. I've got still got one more book left, obviously. There are some incredible locations in this book. And because the characters are all scattered all over the map, we get all of these different landscapes, all of these different vibes. That's what reading The Lord of the Rings really feels like for me. It's almost like I'm exploring this living map, this place that really exists. Every place just comes with its own history and its own lore, and it all feels real and lived in. I've always loved the movies. They're some of my favorite movies of all time. And actually, I remember going to see them at the cinema and when they were first released. And those were some of the great movie-going experiences of my life. I put it in the same category as going to see Jurassic Park for the first time, going to see The Matrix, just these movies that changed my expectations of what films could be, where you just walk out and you go, can you believe, I used to go to movies with my friends, because I was a bit younger. And then so I'd go like, can you believe that? Can you believe what we just saw? That was unreal, just great times. And so I'm always good. These films are always going to have a special place in my heart, but the movies can really only give you so much because they're limited by the amount of time. They've got time restraints. You can't have like a 10-hour movie. They're already long enough. So obviously books are able to dig deeper into every location and every character and every artifact that the Fellowship come across. And traveling through this world on the page has been a lot of fun. It's kind of given me another layer of enjoyment. I'm not going to say that it might be one of those rare occasions where the movie and the book are just as good as one another. I know a lot of people prefer the movies to the books even, and vice versa. But this book is just giving me another layer of enjoyment where I'm learning more about everything, and everything feels deeper and richer. There's these huge battle scenes, and there's these little intimate character moments, these conversations that friends are having together, and it kind of warms your heart, One thing that surprised me was how long it takes before we reunite with the plot line of Frodo and Sam, which I consider to be the main story. They don't show up in the Two Towers until about 60% into the book, which blew my mind. The book also introduces one of my favorite characters, not just in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but honestly, I would say this is one of my favorite fictional characters in all just all of fiction, movies, video games, books, obviously. One of my favorite characters. And the moment when he appeared, I lit up, just I was so excited. Again, I can't give a full review of the book because I'm avoiding spoilers. But what I am doing, if you're interested, I'm kind of filming myself as I read the chapters. Like, I'm not filming myself reading the book, but little reactions after I read certain chapters. So once I finish the trilogy, what I'm going to do is just release one massive video where I talk through the whole story, including not just the trilogy, but also The Hobbit as well. I've been recording the whole time. So I've got no idea how long it's going to be. It could be an hour-long video. It could be 2 hours long. I don't know, but I'm excited to release that and kind of give my reactions. A little bit how I did with the Dark Tower. Do you remember when I did the Dark Tower? So yeah, I'm excited to release that. I'm just filming and editing as I go. One more book to go, and then I'll release it. But for this little recap, this is all I can really say about the Two Towers without giving too much away. The book is as good as people say it is. It redefined Western fantasy, and honestly, it's a little gift. It's a little gift. So what's next on the TBR list? Well, I'm hoping to finish the 5th season, and then after I'm done with that, I'm going to move on to Joe Hill's King's Sorrow. So this book only recently came out, but a lot of you have already read it, and you've left some comments on my previous video saying how much you enjoyed it and how you think that maybe it's Joe Hill's best book that he's ever written. That's a pretty high bar. That's a pretty high bar. So I'm really excited to read it. I might buy the physical copy, or I might just read it on ebook. I'm not sure yet, but either way, I'm looking forward to diving into that one. And if you'd like to keep up to date with my reviews as and when I read these books, then you can follow me on Goodreads, which is the same name as this channel. It's Paperback Journeys over there. So at the beginning of this video, I said that I would tell you about a TV show that I'm watching. And so normally I talk about the movies that I've seen, but unfortunately I haven't watched any movies this week. I watched like 3 or 4 last week, but yeah, this week I didn't get a chance to watch any movies. I'm planning on watching Frankenstein, the new Frankenstein movie that just got released on Netflix. So yeah, hopefully I'll watch that today. Frankenstein is one of my favorite books of all time. That's a top 10 book for me. I really, really like that. I know people are a little bit split on it. I think it's fantastic. So I'm excited to see Del Toro's adaptation. And yeah, while we're on the subject of TV shows, the TV show that I watched this week, it's a sci-fi show. And it feels like everybody is talking about this thing. It's like it's the big show of the moment. It's called Pluribus. I'm gonna have to tell you as little as possible about this because I went into this show, episode 1, knowing almost nothing about it other than a lot of people seem to like it, and it made the experience much better. So I'm just going to keep this review very light and not really reveal much about the show. I'm just going to try and talk around it. Let's see if I can do it. So the main character, I can tell you that, is a person called Carol, who is a romance novelist in Albuquerque. And she's on a book tour. She's signing copies for the fans. And it's very obvious in the early scenes that she's not into this book, really. She's kind of embarrassed to be a romantasy writer. She wants to write something that she feels is more serious, but she's just found herself stuck in this niche that she doesn't care about. And all of that is prologue to something very strange that happens. It's this sort of major event that changes the people around her in some way, kind of how they think and how they behave. And Carol is left trying to unravel this mystery, trying to figure out exactly what's going on. And the show blends that mystery and sci-fi and weirdness and humor. It's directed by Vince Gilligan, who also made Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And Carol is played by, what's her name? I think it's Rhea Seehorn. She is the lawyer that works with Saul in Better Call Saul, right? So she's really good in this as well. She's the main character in this. I think what I'm liking about the show so far, and I'm only a couple of episodes in, I think there's maybe 3 episodes out in total so far. It uses this very familiar sci-fi trope, but it adds a fresh twist to it, and it kind of asks questions. And I think that's the really great thing about sci-fi, is that it can ask questions of the viewer or of the reader better than any other genre. You know, it gives us a lot of, well, what if this happened? You know, what if we created this technology? What if this existed? If this happened to us, what would be the morally right thing to do? How would people react, and how should they react? I'm watching this show with my wife. She's really loving it too, right? So that's a good sign. We're both really liking it. And it's fun because I find myself just constantly like picking up the remote and just pausing it, turning to my wife and going, I mean, we're talking about it, you know? We're sitting there with each other and saying, like, do you think this is good or is this bad? Like what do you think about this? It's just very interesting. But I can't really say much more than that. It's on Apple TV. So if you have Apple TV, definitely recommend watching it. What I like to do with streaming services is I'll watch one streaming service for a while, and then I'll cancel that one, and then I'll switch over to another streaming service and kind of have that for a month, you know? And normally I've got 2 streaming services at a time because there's just so many, right? And there's so many good shows like Apple TV, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime. Like there's just all these like different streaming services. And because they're bringing out original content, you want to be able to see what's going on in the world, you know? But yeah, the way I work around it is I kind of have, I'll watch this one, or sometimes I'll wait for a series to finish, like wait for it to reach the finale, obviously trying to avoid spoilers if I can. And then I'll cancel this one and then move over to this one, watch that show. And by that time, the other ones come on, right? So yeah, really enjoying that as well. I'm enjoying a lot of fantasy and sci-fi recently. And yeah, I'm excited to watch another episode of that. So what else has been going on? We had some book battles on the Discord, and this is where we pit books against each other, and then everyone on the Discord gets to choose which they prefer, which one wins. This week we had The Lies of Loch Lamora versus The Name of the Wind, and the winner of that battle was The Lies of Loch Lamora with 71%. And then we had, speaking about Lord of the Rings, we had Westeros from A Song of Ice and Fire, or Game of Thrones as you might know it, versus Middle-earth from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And the winner of that battle was Middle-earth with 69%. And then we had The Handmaid's Tale versus The Children of Men, and the winner of that battle was The Handmaid's Tale with 74%. So yeah, book battles are one of the games that we have over on the Discord, so if you want to join in the fun over there, then you're welcome to join us. Most of my links are all in the description below if you want to find anything like that. And so, yeah, that leads me to the big question of the week. Every week I like to ask a question so that we can get a conversation going in the comments section. But just before I ask you that question, I want to take this moment to thank all of the Patreon members for supporting this channel. A big thank you to the cult members. A massive thank you to the named men. And an extra special thank you to the Quartet. All of you make this channel possible, and I'm so glad that we get to build this reading community together. Seriously, thanks so much for being a part of it. So this is the big question of the week. Oh, just before I forget as well, I mentioned the redemptive arc, right? What's my favorite book? What's the book that has the biggest redemptive arc? In my opinion, the book with the biggest redemptive arc in all of literature is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. It's my favorite book. I know that's I think some people think that that's a bit crazy, that a Christmas Carol is your favorite book. Listen, man, it's so good. It's so good. I read it every year, and every year it makes me cry tears of happiness. I love this book. And yes, the big question of the week, I also mentioned that one of my favorite characters in all of literature was featured in The Two Towers. But let me ask you, what is your favorite character in all of fantasy? Well, keep it to fantasy, right? So out of all of the fantasy books that you've read, who is your favorite character and what is it that made them so memorable? Obviously, avoid spoilers, right? So don't say, oh, they had a big dramatic death scene at the end. Oh, no, we don't like spoilers. So yeah, but what is it about that character that made them so memorable, so unique? Thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a lovely Sunday and a lovely rest of your week, and happy reading.